Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We are watching a grandma inspired process of pierogi making. What was that? What was that? Let's go back. It's 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 a mold. Oh my goodness. Look at that. The most amazing. Whoops, it's not always perfect. But it's pretty darn amazing to have this great mold. Grandma inspired me so much to be in the kitchen, to learn what she learned. She's a little bit German and a little bit Russian, but she's definitely 100% mom-in-law. So here I am trying to remember how she did this. You know, do we use the spoon? Do we use our fingers? Do we just skip it all and go buy them from the grocery store? Well, Mom would say, it's really easy. You just have to take your time and get it right, and it'll always turn out perfect. So, a little flour, a little dough, a little filling, and away we go. I sped this up for you so that we can get you in and get you out of the kitchen with your pierogies, and you'll be sitting down for dinner before you know it. The dough is a really simple recipe. There's 3 cups of flour, a teaspoon of salt, and a cup of hot water with 2 tablespoons of oil in it. And I put this in my kitchen aid, and I made this beautiful dough, adding a little bit of water at a time while it mixed until it was a perfect, not too sticky ball of dough. I took it out and I let it rest for about an hour. Really only needs a half an hour, but it took me about an hour to make my filling. I had steamed the potatoes the night before, so I only had to grate them, remove the peels, and grate in some cheese. I used a nice old cheddar. I sauteed up 2 onions and 1 large pound of bacon. I drained the bacon, cooled the bacon and the onions before we added it to the mix. The cheese was the last ingredient I added with some salt and pepper, and the filling was ready. So it's time to roll. Now that dough's got to be rolled very thin. And I have to say, I needed some rolling lessons, because it's like I had forgotten after 10 or more years of how to make the perfect dough. Perfectly thin to fit over these molds so we could fill them. Then I'd take a handful of water, literally a handful. I dipped my hands in that plate of water and I pat it all over the filling and the dough so that when I applied the top layer of dough, it will stick. And the rolling pin does the rest of the work. We roll and roll and roll this dough perfectly till that beautiful pierogi is going to pop right out and eventually pop right into your mouth. But there's a few more steps first. So here's that pierogi looking pretty good. I didn't have to pinch the sides at all on that. No, I did flour up this mold very well. If you asked me where I purchased the mold, I didn't. I got it from Grandma, mother-in-law. Mom leaves the best gifts. She absolutely inspired me. Many years ago, we used to make hundreds of pierogies at the farm, sitting around the big table with lots of wonderful family members. Boy, I sure miss those good old days. Now, I've seen a lot of different videos where, they cut the dough out and they fill it, and they might use some egg wash or just water. I know that flour and water makes glue. And if you're looking to stick your pierogies together, just make a little glue and put it along the edges if you're doing it the old-fashioned way. And I think the old-fashioned way is the best way. These molds are absolutely perfect. Now, having an extra hand or two in the kitchen and maybe a bit of assembly line, you could probably do hundreds of these in a day. Don't get rid of all that scrap dough. Roll it back up into a ball, give it a little bit of a kneading. Okay, knead a little bit more. And knead it. Yeah, squish that dough. That's right. We want to make that dough nice and soft again. What I found is that the dough is very stretchy. So when I'm putting the filling in the molds, I can push it in without tearing that dough. I can fill those pierogies a lot more than Mom did. Sorry, Mom. You weren't cheap on your pierogi filling, because I know you had a big family to feed. You wanted us to have just a little bit in each pierogi, so we'd come back for more, didn't you? Mom's the best. Flour is your friend to keep everything from sticking. So just before I start another batch of dough rolling, I want to make sure that my pierogies got tossed with a little bit of flour so nothing will stick on the tray. I'm going to go get my tray right away. There it is. I got a little flour dusting on there. I'm going to lay out my pierogies. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. 5, 6. You can tell I don't actually film food videos very often, and I'm doing a voiceover, and I thought it'd be a little fun and a little bit of funny to watch what I'm doing in the camera and try to explain it to you. So we got all of these pierogies, and we're just gonna, check them, make sure they're all good, sealed up. Maybe if I got a little finger dent in them, smooth them all out. They're ready for the deep freeze. Don't go away. We'll be right back. I promise you. There's a lot of bowl in that dough. I mean, a lot of dough in that bowl. Bowl, dough. Oh my, this is going to be interesting. Okay, so here we go again. Take your rolling pin. I'm using a marble rolling pin, and trust me, after the many hours that I spent doing this pierogi, I am thinking I need a lighter rolling pin. But I'm not complaining because this one worked great. Once I remembered how to roll fast and efficient, I just kept busy. So roll your dough out as thin as you need to. And the shape and the size depends on how you're making your pierogies. So I'm making my shape to fit the mold. That pierogi mold is great. I happen to have 2 of them, but I only used one because, well, there's only one of me. Hopefully in the future, I'll have someone else join me in pierogi making, and we can make extras. Now you can see how thin that pierogi dough has to be. It really has to be as thin as a sheet. Well, we're almost got that. Now, I think you've already figured out how I do this. Yep. I'm matching it up and making sure it fits. Oh, I just about forgot. I have to put some flour down. I learned this the first one. I didn't put enough flour in, and they stuck. And I had to repair some of the seams. Now you can see very clearly through that dough. It's absolutely perfectly rolled. And here's that perfect filling. Bacon, potato, cheese, onion, a little spoonful, and into its spot. Now I push it right in there. Now that dough is so stretchy. If you do it very gently, you can get that perfectly in there. Making sure the seams don't touch, because we need that dough to connect on the seams. That's how we keep it all together. So I'm going to just keep rolling these little balls of filling, trying not to make too much. I was really happy when I got down to the last tray and I had just enough pierogi filling to make that last tray. And I always thank the good Lord for miracles like that, because He's the one that directs my steps, and how many potatoes and how much bacon, how much onions. I really don't follow a recipe. I kind of just follow my heart, my instincts, and the training that I got from Mom. There's a great way to use leftover dough. I watched an amazing video, Diana Brienne Fairchild. She made a deconstructed pierogi recipe, and the dough was her noodles. I suggest you go and find that video and watch it. I think it's very creative, and I definitely used that idea with my leftover dough last night. So it looks like we got our filling pressed in. That's it. Keep it between the lines. I didn't realize how much fun it was to make a video until I decided to do a voiceover today. One by one by one by one, we fill the little cells. The pierogi dough is so perfect to wrap this delicious filling. Now I'm going to show you how to do it with a spoon and not your fingers. For some of us, we like to get our fingers sticky, and other people, they don't like that. So I'm going to show you two different ways. This way is just using 2 small teaspoons, and I just roll the dough back and forth on the spoon till it makes the shape I need, or close to the shape I need. Now tell me, how do you like your pierogies? Do you like them boiled? Do you like them fried? Have you ever baked a pierogi? We had a family member who made an amazing pierogi casserole. We haven't had a family meal for a while, so I sure missed having those pierogies. So it was a really good day yesterday to keep busy in the kitchen. And by supper time, I had worked up an appetite ate 12 of them with sour cream. Now I decided to do this a little bit different. There's that water, handful of water, patting it all down, making sure that dough's good and sticky. Up along the edges, make sure it's perfect. Now I'm going to set it off to the side, and I'm going to have to roll some more dough, because I'm going to make a top for it. Okay, rolling the dough. I've seen so many different people teach so many different ways. Well, this is my way. Well, maybe it's more like mother-in-law's way. But we're rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling that dough until it's perfect, you know, to make Mom's pierogies in her mold. Okay, now you've seen me roll out the best sheet of beautiful dough. Look at that. It's perfect. Well, almost perfect. I some days wonder why I'm such a perfectionist. But you gotta get it right. Grandma would say that. Gotta get it just right. Okay, so now we're gonna take that mold. Do you remember what we do next? We take the water. Yes, handful of water. Pat that. Cover that. And press it. And here we go. Now, it's really not that difficult to make pierogies if you have the right tools. God clearly gave us 2 hands. Those are great tools. I mean, you can't get any better than the 2 hands, right? Oh, see, I needed 2 hands to do that. All right, now you can see we're going to reuse that dough. No dough gets thrown out in the making of this video. Or even when the video is not running, the dough is going to be used. We do not throw out any dough. Just powder it, place it back under the bowl. A little extra flour to keep it from sticking. And that's that. All right, let's have a little fun and see how these are going to pop right out for you, or me. And that's it. Look how easy that is, hey? I mean, you could do it all by hand. You could mix the dough by hand. You could even go and get a pasta machine to roll that dough out so perfectly thin for you, and then put it in the mold. However you decide to do your pierogies, I just want you to do it with a smile. And I want you to do it from your heart. Now bring a pot of salted water to boil. Have a hot frying pan with a little bit of butter in it. Or you could use your bacon grease if you like. If you need extra bacon, extra onions, go ahead and fry them in that frying pan. Push them to the side and then fry your pierogies. I wanted to make it simple. I wanted the bacon and the onions in with the potato and the cheese. As soon as they float up to the surface, they're done. Pop them in that hot frying pan with that little bit of butter, or a lot of butter, depending on how much butter you like, and let them cook over medium-high heat until they're just brown and crispy the way you like it. Thank you for watching a Grandma-inspired video. I'm your host, Calico Dawn, and I'll see you next time.